I live in a small town with a population of only 10,000 people. The town was surrounded by acres of empty land and cornfields. On the weekend, when going grocery shopping, you'll see the same people most of the time. There's a bar where you'll see the same guy every time you go there. One night, driving home late from my girlfriend's house. It was a rainy night on the highway and I couldn't see much on the road but slowly driving. I was the only car on the road, and it was pitch black on both sides of the road. I will never forget this night, and will never drive this late at night again. While driving, I was listening to the heavy rain pounding my car when I suddenly saw a figure on the side of the road. I put on my high beam and slowed down to see what it was. When I got to the figure and stopped in the middle of the highway, next to my car was a woman carrying a baby. She was not even carrying an umbrella, so the woman and the baby were soaking wet. I opened my window and yelled if they needed help, but no answer. I kept on yelling at the woman, but nothing. She just kept staring straight ahead on the road. Then, all of a sudden, she slowly turned her head to look at me. And to my horror, her face was rotten and her tongue was sticking out. I got freaked out and stepped on my gas and sped off. While driving away, my heart was pounding so fast that I could hear it so loudly through my ears. I kept looking back and hoping not to see anything. But then I heard a small cry, like a baby crying, behind my seat. I adjusted my mirror, and, to my horror, it was the same woman sitting on the back of my seat, holding the baby in her arms. I was so scared but kept calm and pretended that I didn't see anything. I can feel the woman's coming close to the back of my head because I can hear her breathing. Her breath smelled so bad that my eyes went blurry for a second. Then the baby cried so loudly for 3 seconds before just stopping. Everything went silent. I looked back and the woman was gone. As I was about to exit the highway, I saw the same woman carrying her baby walking away. The next day, I told my dad about what I saw, and he told me that back in the early 2000s, there was a woman carrying a baby walking on the same road who got run over by her drunk husband. They were arguing, and the mom decided to take her baby and walk to the side of the highway. Her husband then followed her and ran over the wife while holding the baby in her arms. I was told that maybe the mom and baby spirit were lost and just needed a ride out of that place. What creeps me the most is that when I went to pick up my little brother from school the next day, he asked me why my back seat was soaking wet. Ever since then, I stopped driving late at night. My girlfriend lives around 2 or so hours away, so every time I wanted to visit her, I would always take the highway. One day, when she didn't go to work, she asked me to go visit her, so I told her I would go. I spent the whole day with her, and it was already late at night when I left to go home. Everything went by normally on the drive home, but then halfway I noticed that it started raining. At first it was only a light drizzle, so I thought the rain would stop soon, but then the more I drove, the harder it rained. It got to the point where I had to use the fastest wiper speed on my windshield. It then began raining so hard that I had to slow down and used my whole focus on the road. When I was staring intently ahead of me, I suddenly passed what looked to be someone in white clothes standing on the side of the road, pointing their arm at me. I was curious about why someone would be standing on the side of the highway at night in the middle of the rain. I thought maybe it was a hitchhiker who unfortunately got caught in the midst of this rain. I looked at the rear mirror to see who it was, but the rain was coming in too hard that it blocked my vision. All I could see was a faint white glow, getting dimmer and dimmer as I was driving further away. As I was deciding whether to stop to help the person because maybe it was an emergency, I suddenly noticed someone wearing white clothes ahead of me too, pointing at me crazily. I was driving slowly enough that when I came closer to the person, I could make out almost everything about that person. It was a lady, and she kept pointing to the car as if asking me to stop so she could get in. My heart started to beat faster now, because she was doing exactly as the person I saw behind me a while ago. When I looked at her, something just seemed so off about it that I did not want to stop, so I stepped on the gas and drove off even faster. I couldn't seem to put my finger on what was different about her, but I was not about to stop to find out. For a few miles or so, nothing out of the ordinary happened, so I thought maybe the worst was over. The rain also stopped, so I could see the highway clearly now. A few more miles ahead, I came upon a curve in the highway, and when I finished turning, right at the end of the curve was someone in white, standing there and pointing her finger at me. I looked at it and it was the same person. Now I am really starting to freak out, because this is not a natural occurrence. When I passed right beside her, I finally noticed what was off about her. Her feet were pointing the other direction. When she walked, since her knees were bent the other way, her walk was so unnaturally creepy that I thought my heart was going to stop. I drove even faster home. This time I went so fast that I thought maybe I would be pulled over. But then nothing else happened on the way home. In the parking lot, I jumped right out and sprinted all the way home. The next morning, I kept thinking about it, but no answers came to me. Even to this day, I still wonder what it was that I saw. One night, I was driving to work in the mountains because I work inside the casino as a dealer. Every time, I would drive 1 hour early because the casino is far from my house and I usually work first shift. So I would go early so I wouldn't be stuck in rush hour traffic. I would arrive like 30 minutes early and go inside the cafeteria and snack on food so I wouldn't be hungry when I worked. When you work at the casino, it only gets busy at night and usually on the weekends. I went in to cover one of my coworkers' shifts. It was on a Saturday, as I was coming home late that night. It was super busy, and people usually drink and drive. As I was driving home, I encountered a woman walking on the side of the road, which usually never happens because the road is super narrow. When I was coming close, I saw the woman pulling out her hands and giving me the thumbs up, so I knew it was a hitchhiker asking for a ride. I slowed down and asked if she needed help, and then she asked me to take her home, and I told her to open the door. When she got in the car, I asked where to take her, and I suddenly felt something sharp touch my neck. I realize it's a knife. She said, "Don't you move and give me your key." I then saw 4 men come out of the side of the road behind the trees. One of the men opened my door and dragged me out. He pointed a gun in my face and told me to give my wallet to him. I was shaking and crying at this point, when all of a sudden, one of the men started to kick me on the head. That is when all the men started to kick me left to right. They took my wallet and phone out of my pocket and drove away with my car. It was so painful that I couldn't get up and was bleeding from my forehead. I had been lying in the middle of the road for 15 minutes when a car pulled up and I realized it was one of my coworkers. She called the police and took me to the hospital. I have several bruises and cuts on my body and head. To this day, those thieves never got caught, and I hope no one will ever go through what I have. I hope those losers will be rotten in hell. I'll never ever work a night shift ever again, or I'll just quit my job and find something that is closer to me. I only wanted to work at the casino because when it gets busy, we get lots of tips and we average a good amount of money from customers. I never saw those losers ever again, driving back in from the same road. I was glad it was a one-time thing.